It's day 326. It's also March 27th, 2020, and we are in Rocky Ford, Colorado. You ever wake up in the morning and ask yourself, what am I doing? And more importantly, why? Yeah, me too. Hi, my name's Craig, and this is my story. A story about life out there. For visuals while listening, search Life Out There on your favorite social media platform or use the links in the podcast description. We woke up to snow mixed with rain. The weather forecast last night hadn't mentioned the snow part. And another lesson learned. The sudden realization, everything we've been told about springtime here in the high plains of Colorado and its unpredictable nature is true. I did another quick check of the weather. Unlike last night, when the very same weather dude had told us of a 30-degree night and the slight chance of rain, was now using the term winter weather event for the entire Denver metro area. Beginning as early as 2 p.m. today. The alert fully kicks in at 9 p.m. tonight and will last through 9 a.m. tomorrow. The passes are expected to be particularly messy, with some lower elevation areas receiving 3 to 6 inches of new snow. Temperatures? Well, they're dropping into the 20s. Now, they do expect that it'll pass quickly. This gang had no interest in sticking around to find out exactly how quickly it would pass. This Colorado spring tantrum is going to have to happen without us. As I studied the map, I was noodling around that other lesson being delivered. If your objective is to avoid freezing temperatures and the potential for snow in late March, the only surefire strategy for success? Don't be here. But we are here. And not wanting to backtrack, I studied the map looking for another way out. And fortunately, just 3 miles from where we slept was an entrance to Highway 71 South. I checked the weather in every town along Highway 71 South, and things were looking the same, all the way down through a place called Lyman. And fortunately, safe haven appeared to await us in a place called Rocky Ford, Colorado, some 80 miles beyond Lyman. So now we had a plan, and according to the weather dude, who isn't high on my credibility list at the moment, he says we got about 6 hours. Quick walk, quicker breakfast, levelers up, and we were out of there. The personality of eastern Colorado remained pretty consistent all the way down Highway 71. Rolling ranch lands, greening up for the spring, as far as the eye can see with only the occasional farmhouse dotting the horizon. The first half of the drive was dark and wintry. It hadn't started snowing yet, but man, it felt like it was gonna any second. But we made it. 130 miles and 3 hours later, we were enjoying a 60-degree sunny afternoon in the Arkansas Valley Fairgrounds in Rocky Ford. And I'm not so sure exactly why we would be spared here. We had dropped around 1,000 feet in elevation. Maybe that was enough. Or maybe just the few miles further took us out of the storm's path. Whatever the reason, we'll take it. And being on the road, I guess I spend a lot of time trying to not think about this pandemic thing. But each time we pull into a town, reminders are everywhere. Rocky Ford, March 27th, 2020, no different. The gas station and convenience store, which we needed, by the way, as we entered town, thankfully was open. We'd even seen one small grocery store that looked like it might be open. But everything else, including RV parks, different story. Interestingly, A couple of the RV parks were indeed open, but they told us they had experienced an unseasonably high volume. It seems folks are looking to escape the pandemic in big cities. That, combined with the parks attempting to remain safe and accommodate the quote-unquote social distancing, that new term that we had started hearing, well, all that meant pretty slim pickings. But it would be the cashier at the convenience store that told us about the Arkansas Valley Fairgrounds. She wasn't sure, but she thought they might have electrical hookups and water. At the very least, there'd be a space to park for the night while we figured things out. And she was right. They had both. And even better, we had the place all to ourselves. Around 4,000 folks call Rocky Ford home, here in the southeast corner of the state. The area is also referred to as the Arkansas Valley, named for the river that runs through it. The Arkansas River is a major tributary of the Mississippi River and has always been the area's draw. It flows some 1,500 miles beginning here in Colorado, through Kansas and Oklahoma before joining up with the Mississippi in Arkansas. The Cherokee, the Ute, and the Comanche people lived along its banks for centuries, until, well, that very familiar history kicks in. Spanish explorers discovered the area. But the Spanish, they struggled to develop any permanent settlement in the region due to the fierce resistance of the Native Americans around here. In later years, the French would claim the area as part of the Louisiana Territory. And initially, Spain would contest France's claim to the region. But they ended up conceding it to France, just in time for it to become part of the U.S. as part of the Louisiana Purchase. But settlement came a little bit later to this part of the country, given that continued resistance by Native Americans. But eventually, the Indian Wars would bring that to a close, and Rocky Ford began its steady growth based on its agricultural potential and the growth of railways throughout the region connecting the East Coast with the growing West. And expecting to find an entertaining story behind the name of the town, instead, I found this from the town's official website. Quote, "The literal-minded explorer, Kit Carson, crossed the Arkansas River at a shallow spot filled with shale and boulders and dubbed it Rocky Ford Crossing Place." Close quote. Apparently, I just learned that Rocky Ford is a term used to describe a shallow river crossing. In 1878, the Brits would show up in the area, this time in the form of a company named Northern Colorado Irrigation Company. The company was owned by a Scottish entrepreneur, James Duff, and his firm would install the Colorado Canal, or Highline Canal. The canal was built to draw water from the Arkansas River into the more arid regions throughout the valley, and upon its completion, Rocky Ford and surrounding communities would assume their role as the agricultural leaders in the region, quickly becoming known as the melon capital of Colorado. In particular, Rocky Ford cantaloupe and watermelon became known for their taste, just the right amount of juicy and sweet. It turns out that the dramatic temperature shifts from day to night during the growing season around here somehow produce a sweeter melon. And it appears that their cantaloupe would gain global fame when, as local folklore tells it, Lucille Ball would become such a fan of Rocky Ford melons that she had them delivered fresh to her dressing room in Hollywood during the filming of I Love Lucy each week. And the American Sugar Crystal Company would open a sugar processing plant here in Rocky Ford in 1900, beginning the area's 78-year run as a player in the sugar industry, at one point being the largest producer of sugar in the country. Unfortunately, globalization of prices and a market shift from beet sugars to cane sugars meant cheaper imports, and this, combined with some sort of price-fixing scandal in the 1970s, I didn't look that up, and an overall drop in prices, all led to the closure of the plant in 1978, leaving some 400 residents unemployed, and a big chunk of the town's economy became history. But the accomplishments around here didn't all come from agriculture. The Grand Theater Movie House in Rocky Ford is the longest continuously running movie theater in the state. Today, it's a community theater run by volunteers. And the Arkansas Valley Fair is held in August of each year, right here where we're parked, and is the longest running fair in the state. It was also fun to learn that the town is bisected by U.S. Highway 50, one of only 5 highways in the country that run continuously from coast to coast. Highway 50 begins in Ocean City, Maryland, spans some 3,000 miles passing through Rocky Ford before ending in Sacramento, California. All this to see left us a bit bummed that the pandemic had shut yet another place down. But I guess it means just one more place we'll no doubt see again. So much more to learn. But even still, we enjoyed our walks, exploring the fairgrounds, the nearby National Guard facility, and most of the town. But waking up the next day to a drop in temps and listening to that weather dude, well, first of all, I was coming to the conclusion that being a weather forecaster in Colorado should be classified as sport. Mother Nature throws more curveballs around here than Nolan Ryan. That winter weather event, referred to as we headed out of Lindon, was now a 50-mile-an-hour blizzard moving into the area, bringing up to 6 inches of snow to areas within just 100 miles of us, leaving us with our fingers crossed and hoping 100 miles away was enough. Our little safe haven might have gotten colder. We did awake to a 30-degree day this morning, but the rain that came with it made it feel much colder. But at least we hadn't seen any snow. At one point, I even asked my magic phone, where's the warmest place in Colorado right now? The answer? Las Animas. Good news? We're only 30 minutes away from Las Animas. The not-so-good news? I guess Magic Phone was being a bit literal when it said Las Animas was the warmest place in the state. It left out the part that it was only 3 degrees warmer than where we are, and snowing. The temps in both Las Animas and Rocky Ford were set to drop into the 20s again tonight. It looks like we're staying put. We're grateful, of course, that we're tucked safely in here at Rocky Ford with electricity. But it was not hard to think back a few days, when waking up to a 67-degree morning and the air conditioner was on by 10, and trying to decide how to spend an 87-degree afternoon in St. Mary's. A walk along Cumberland Beach right now sounds pretty dang good. But, there's always a silver lining. I could totally open my windows right now, with absolute zero risk of a sand gnat invasion. So, there's that. We headed out for a bit of a longer walk around the neighborhood at around 10 o'clock, under the false assumption that it had warmed up enough. It did not take long for some harsh realities to cause an abort mission executive order that resulted in a U-turn while still in sight of Vacilando. Dougie may have been appropriately dressed, but Dad sure wasn't. And the fact that I realized I could see my breath as we hustled back to warmth proved it. And besides, it's pretty tough to take a decent picture when you can't feel your fingertips, the phone feels like an ice cube, and you can't stop shivering. We bundled up a bit more for a walk later in the day. And as we passed by the National Guard station up the street, I remembered hearing on the news this morning that more National Guard and reserve troops were being activated to help deal with the logistics of COVID-19. we hadn't seen any activity around here. Maybe they're already gone, I thought. The evening news says things are supposed to warm up a few degrees by tomorrow, and even better, skies are clearing and the passes are reporting clear. Knowing that when we make a break for the western slope, we're going to have to get over Monarch Pass and the nearly 12,000 feet in elevation that come with it. We're not going to rush things. We'll decide in the morning. And with the temps nearing 20 degrees out there, we'll just hang out safe and snug here in Vacilando, tucked into our little corner of the Arkansas Valley Fairgrounds in Rocky Ford. Cupboards open, heater humming, and movie playing. Dang it! I should have bought popcorn. Turns out, this thing called life comes with a lot of rules. Maybe it's time to break a few. Because you can. No, seriously, you can.